Hey everyone, it's Alex here. If you've been scrolling through a dozen digital mixers and wondering whether the Yamaha TF1 is just another flashy piece of gear or actually a solid tool for your gigs, stick around. I'm not going to throw a list of specs at you right away. I want to dig into how this console feels in the real world, what kinds of setups it really shines in, and where it might leave you a little short. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the hesitation most of us feel before hitting buy now. The digital mixer market has exploded over the past few years, and every new model comes with a promise of more channels, fancier automation, or an even sleeker touchscreen. That promise can feel overwhelming, especially if you're juggling a modest band, a small house offership, or a freelance gig engineer who needs to carry his rig from city to city. The biggest risk is ending up with a console that either packs features you'll never touch, or lacks the flexibility you actually need on a night-to-night basis. When I started looking at the TF1, the first thing that caught my eye was its size. Yamaha markets it as compact and even rack-mountable. In practice, that means you can slip it onto a 19-inch rack, or tuck it into a road case without sacrificing a whole lot of real estate in your setup. For a touring small band or a church that only has a corner of a room to allocate, that footprint feels like a genuine win. The console sits at just over 20 pounds, so you can lift it in and out of a van without needing a second person. That portability, however, comes with a trade-off. You lose a bit of the spacious feel you get on a full-size analog board, and the motor faders are a bit tighter to the edge. If you're used to a luxury of a big desk and enjoy spreading out, the TF1 will feel a little cramped, but if you've been looking for a workhorse that fits in tighter spaces, it checks the box. Now let's break down the channel layout. The TF1 gives you 16 physical channels, 16 motor faders, one for each input, plus a master so you can see everything at a glance. In a typical band setup that might include a drum kit mic, a couple of vocal mics, a bass amp, a couple of guitars, a keyboard, and maybe a couple of line-level inputs for playback, you've got enough direct control without having to juggle layers on a screen. The console also offers 40 input mixing channels, which sounds like a lot, but most of those are virtual inputs you can assign through the touchscreen. For a solo artist or a three-piece band, you'll never touch the higher numbers, you'll stay comfortably within the first 16. A practical strength I've seen keep people happy is the way Yamaha handles the auxiliary routing. With 20 auxiliary buses, 8 mono, and 6 stereo plus dedicated stereo and sub-outputs, you can set up monitors, stage fills, and a separate FOH mix without digging through menus. In a church scenario where you need a clean monitor mix for the worship team and a separate mix for the main house speakers, the TF1 lets you route each group quickly. The DCA Groups and the rollout feature also let you pull, say, all the vocal channels into a single fader for quick adjustments, which is handy when you need to trim the entire vocal section mid-song. Where the TF1 shows a practical weakness is in the lack of built-in effects processing. Some competing mixers bundle reverb, delay, and even multiband compression directly into the console. Yamaha expects you to use external plugins or outboard gear for that. If you're a DJ or a solo performer who relies on a single reverb unit, you'll have to route the send or return external to the console, adding a bit more cable management. For a small band that already runs a rack of effects, that's not a big deal, but for someone hoping to simplify their signal chain, the absence of native effects could feel like an extra step. Another consideration is the touchscreen interface. The TF1 screen is clear and responsive, but because the console is relatively small, the UI crams a lot of functionality into a limited space. After a few weeks, you'll learn the shortcuts and the most common functions are just a tap away, but there's a learning curve if you're moving from a purely analog workflow. For users who love to scroll through pages of routing options and enjoy the tactile nature of a bigger screen, this might feel a little restricting. On the flip side, for anyone who appreciates a no-band fader-first approach, the motor faders still give you that analog feel while the screen handles the deeper edits. Who should definitely buy the TF1? First, small to medium live bands that need a tidy mixing console without compromising on channel count. If you play a regular gig at a venue that only offers a modest PA setup, this unit lets you take full control your own.